popping on the chat and saying hello. I want to first start out by once again saying we have an international audience here. Hello, Juan. Hola, buenas tardes. Hello, Elizabeth. Hello, Bobby. I love what you put. Sacred Ambitionistas from Chicago. Yes, absolutely, we are. And Juan is saying the image is not clear. I'm wondering, Juan, could you give us a little bit more information? Is it my image? Is it Selena's image? And did it clear up? Let us know, and we'll see what we can do to help you. And hello, Alex from Palatine, Illinois. Lovely. And if there's anybody else on live, if you'd like to pop on and say hello and tell us where you're from, it's just great to welcome you in that way. Yes, today is our fourth and final Google series teaching calls about from sacred calling to sacred ambition. I know some of you have been with us on all the calls, and I want to say thank you. And some of you are joining for the first time. So I want to say if you've not had an opportunity to go back and listen to the other 3 calls, I really hope you will, because each call is unique. This is a teaching series, so each call has a different point that we're teaching about. Wonderful guests on all the calls, including today. So be sure you go back and watch the other ones when you have time. Well, before we get into today's topic, I really want to announce the winners from our contest. For those of you who may not know, we have been running a contest on Facebook group from Sacred Calling to Sacred Ambition, and the contest was a month long, and during that contest, contestants could enter a image of their sacred calling to sacred ambition and then a 20-word description, plus they also needed to comment on others as they entered. And so, you know, the comments have been really incredible over this month. People sharing their vulnerability, sharing their sacred callings, supporting one another, witnessing for one another, supporting. It's just been great. And then the other way you could win in this contest was actually by your comments. So we have 2 categories of winners, and Selena and I were going back and forth. Well, do we mention it? You know, do we give the contest today or winners today, or do we wait or whatever? And I just said, no, let's do it live. And we'll also, of course, post it to the Facebook group. So can I have a drum roll, please? The grand prize winners, which are from the image portion of the contest, and these winners will win a free ticket to your Sacred Ambition live event in August, are Gabrielle Taylor, Carrie Bray, and Denise Lamprin. Yay! Yay! Let's have a round of applause for them. Yay! It was just really wonderful. It was hard to pick the winners, but we persevered. And then the best comment winners, because there's a whole nother category, these 2 winners will actually win a 6-session audio course that I've pre-recorded called Bridge to Your Big Life. And this is full of all the self-mastery tools that I teach as foundational to really begin to lay down a whole new foundation in your life. And they are Bobby Minnendorf and Sherry Campbell. Yay! Applause, applause, applause. I just want to thank everyone that contributed in the contest over this last month, and also say we've got more coming. We won't be running another contest, but we definitely will continue to keep the group, the tribe, stoked with all kinds of opportunities for you to continue to support one another, for you to continue to comment, and you'll see how it's coming forward over the next couple of months. So just really touches my heart in all the ways that people have contributed in this Facebook group, and I see some themes coming up in the Facebook group, and I'm reading them, so we will be addressing those as we go forward. Well, let's go to today's call and what we're going to focus on today in the teaching part of this series. Today we're going to focus on another trap, trap number 3, and also we're going to focus on one of the keys that I believe is essential in bringing your sacred calling out to the world in sacred ambition. And that has to do with having systems and strategies in place. So let me back up a bit and weave it into the other 3 Google Hangouts that we've had and say that at the beginning of this Google Hangout series, I told a bit of my story. And that story was really to illustrate sacred calling to sacred ambition. We've had other people on this Google Hangout that have done the same thing. And at one point I talked about 4 years ago really being called to step out in a bigger way with my sacred calling. My sacred calling is to co-create heaven on earth. And so at that time I joined a high-powered mastermind. Well, that was a huge year of learning for me, and very much has to do with the trap I want to talk about today, which is chasing after bright, shiny objects, but not feeling fulfilled. This was a huge year of learning all kinds of different ways to take my sacred calling out there, and how I wanted to do that, how I wanted to present myself. And I was being schooled, let's say, in best practices according to this particular mastermind organization. And in those were all kinds of bright, shiny objects that just caught my attention and glittered and sparkled and said, ooh, 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 come over here, come do this. So I know this one really well. And I want to say that I learned a lot by chasing after these bright, shiny objects of success, these standards of success. And they can be everything from, some kind of cash flow amount to some kind of 6-figure that you are supposed to be making, to a list that's supposed to be huge, to a teleclass that's supposed to have hundreds and hundreds of people in it, etc. Speaking on stages, all that kind of stuff. Nothing wrong with any of this. It just has to really align with you and who you are. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I've learned from all of this at the end of the call. But I just want to say that is really going to be our focus today, is the trap of chasing after bright, shiny objects and not feeling fulfilled. So today's guest is actually going to talk about one of the key points I believe are so important in what I've learned in bringing our sacred calling out into the world, in really bringing it forward in a business that's sustainable, a business that thrives so we can do well and do good. That is part of the event promise in the event that I do in August, Your Sacred Ambition. Lead from your divine power so you can do well and do good. I believe we as sacred ambition leaders, world servers, and visionaries must do well so we can do good. And how we do that is really important. So last year I actually invited Laura Pedro to be my guest on the stage. She was one of the speakers at last year's event, and she just knocked it out of the park. People loved her. They loved what she had to say. She was part of my mentorship this year. I mentor people in Sacred Ambition, and she's coming back. So let me introduce Laura to you. First of all, the name of her business is Think and Grow CEO. She's going to tell you more about her backstory and why it's Think and Grow CEO. But let me introduce her the way I introduce all my guests, and that is Laura's sacred calling is to empower people to know and act from their deepest commitment and greatest contribution. Her sacred ambition is to help birth the realization of business as a sacred possibility and a wellspring of personal and world transformation. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm so happy to be here. And I do have, you can hear me fine, okay? Right?
Yes, we
Oh,
can hear you.
great.
We can hear you. Yeah, everybody goes, did I turn on my mic? Tell me if I turned on my mic or not. Oh, great. And I want to say to our audience, if at any time you have any questions for Laura, please feel free to post them. And Selena will just kind of interrupt us and say, hey, we have a question here.
Great.
So, Laura, tell us about your sacred calling. When did it first begin to emerge? How did you know it was a sacred calling? How did it present
Mm,
itself to you?
mm. That's a great question. You made me think a little deeper about it. I think it actually started to try to emerge when way back in my, like, maybe I was around 30 or something like that, maybe even earlier than that, when I lived in Montana, and was I just felt so smothered there, I met this wonderful woman who taught me meditation, and she had this really rich library of Eastern philosophy, and I just gobbled that up. But I never really did anything with it. I felt this kind of bubbling, like there's not enough. I'm just, this isn't. I should be doing something different. I felt that bubbling up for me for a long time. And then in 1983, I did a personal development program, a personal transformation program, and I absolutely, I knew it was like 2 weekends long, and in between the first weekend and the second weekend, I knew that if there was anything I could do with the rest of my life, it was bringing that kind of transformation to the world, because it just blew me away to see people, people who were stopped and kind of stuck in their lives. They were like victims of the circumstances of their lives, whether that was in a relationship or whether it was in some other area of their life, and they found out that they could really be the authors of their lives regardless of the circumstances. And it was so beautiful to me to think that I could bring to people that kind of freedom of expression, and that willingness to take a stand for something that they believed in. And it took me a while, but eventually I met a person that was also kind of steeped in this. I threw myself in, man. I just learned everything I could possibly learn about it. And she had also studied a lot. And we started up this little tiny, completely unknown business. I mean, we had no money, no reputation, no credibility, no contacts, no practically nothing except huge commitment to doing this. And we decided that what we were going to do is take this into business. And so, this was in the early 80s, and you could hardly say the word culture in business then, let alone talk about transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So, we had the job of, we had this huge ambition called transforming large organizations, because that's where we could hit the most people. And we had to figure out how to make transformation like desirable, like to help people understand, CEOs understand how it could help them and their people. And really what that took was helping the CEOs uncover the heartfelt commitment to their people that they really did have. So over a long period of time, probably I think by about 1994, about 1994, we built our company up, and then we merged with another company. Long story short, we became part of a $9 billion company, and I was the vice president leading the organization transformation practice there. And, so I was a consultant to CEOs and other leaders of these big Fortune 500 companies, and we did a lot of great work. But it was also really hard to keep them on track. You could get a CEO really engaged and inspired, and then for whatever reason, he left, and then
Mm-hmm.
somebody else would come in, and it would be
Sure.
like it all fell apart. And so what I noticed is that there's a trend of, just really so many small businesses emerging, like people who have transformation and the transformation of people and the world at heart, that are really going into business for themselves. And there's so little support for them out there about how to turn that desire into a successful business.
Mm-hmm.
So even though my sacred calling and my sacred ambition have remained the same over all of these years, my focus has changed. And so now I'm really committed to helping these small businesses, because I really do think that it's the small business that is going to be the thing that actually changes business forever. I really do think that, honestly.
And when you say small business, I know I've asked you this before. Share with the audience, our sacred ambition leaders, world servers, and visionaries. What do you mean by small business?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, it's not what the Department of Labor thinks, and it's not. Because the
Exactly.
Department of Labor decides by how many people you have. Industry bases it on how much money you make. It's not that. It's really people who are bold enough and have a big enough commitment to go into business for themselves. And some of these businesses are very tiny. Might be one person, or other businesses could be bigger. Yeah. So it's businesses that are of the size that they really are not hampered by, having shareholders, et cetera, like that. So
board of directors and things like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Although some might be with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the reason I want to talk about that is because, a lot of us are solopreneur, we're purposepreneur, we're entrepreneur, and there is just one of us and maybe a few people that, help us in the background. And yet, at the same time, our businesses can be sustainable and thriving and do well and do good. So I just want to make sure we're talking about that so people get that we're talking about you.
Okay. Oh, and you know what I want to add to that too, Rebecca? I'm talking about business right now, but what I am committed to bringing to people that are listening to you and the people who are doing the Sacred Ambition program is a set of principles that can be applied whether you're actually a for-profit business or if you have more of a non-profit focus, because the principles are the same.
Yes, or even an initiative, like you have a cause that you want to bring forward in the world. So, yes.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about bright, shiny objects for a moment. Laura and I were actually in that mastermind together. That's where we met. So tell me your experience of chasing after bright, shiny objects, or maybe an experience. What do you see out there in the world as far as this syndrome? It is called a syndrome. So,
yeah. Well, I actually want to talk a little bit about, it's interesting because I didn't know what you were going to talk about. You didn't know exactly what I was going to talk about with regard to this. What I do want to talk about first is a little bit about actually the source, I think, of the syndrome. And I believe that, we're all so, what do I want to say? We're so enculturated, we're so taught, we're so conditioned to care deeply about success, from lots and lots of different aspects. From our teachers, from our culture, from our parents, from everything. Success gets driven into us. In school, it's about, did you get an A or did you get an F? So it's all the same. So I just want to recognize that we all have this huge survival instinct. And it really is a survival instinct. It's like something that we got hardwired with from birth, is our mind that wants to help us survive in the world, and it doesn't know the difference between our physical survival and the survival of our identity.
Mm.
And because of that, we are always going to be susceptible to bright, shiny objects. And we also want to find things that will give us a shortcut or make it easier or whatever. And so I just want to share my own story that's a similar story to yours, I think. When I was deciding that I wanted to shift my focus from corporate, where I had all these leads, like I got business because they called me mostly. And then I was going to go out into this world and, approach small businesses, and how in the world am I ever going to get to know them? And so I found out about somebody that was doing this program, and she went from nothing to $2 million in 2 years, and I thought, oh well, I know all about being up on the stage, and I could do that. And so I jumped in the deep end. And just like you, what I found, I don't know if this is just like what you were going to say, but what I found is that it actually took me away from my sacred ambition. And it got me so focused on trying to get it all right that I got confused. And it actually, in many ways, and this is not knocking the program, I know the cost of getting seduced. So let me just say it's like we're susceptible to being seduced to the trappings that we think will make us successful, and that can pull us away. So the thing that I think, Rebecca, is that it takes so much it takes awareness, it takes commitment, and it takes really working on those internal capabilities that we have, that you teach, that will help us catch ourselves as we start to get seduced and bring us back to really what we're committed to.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, well put, Laura. I couldn't have said it better. And I'm going to talk more about that after your portion about what I learned from that. It's so true. And I just also want to agree with you and also say it's nothing against any of these wonderful programs, masterminds out there. There was a lot of value for me in being in it.
Too,
and at the same time, though, really have to watch it. You have to really watch it. Talk about the systems and strategies that you really bring forward with Sacred Ambition visionaries and world servers and leaders. What do you feel like people need to have in place for their business to thrive, or their initiative to really be sustainable in the world?
Well, first of all, I think we tend to either be on one side or the other. It's like, I said when I first started out, you couldn't say culture inside of a corporation. It's because the people that I was talking to were so trained in an analytical mindset that it was like, and they talk about the hard things in business and then the soft stuff, which is all the people stuff. So if you take that to what we're doing, it's also true. People will gravitate toward the more abstract or the more spiritual, or they'll gravitate toward the concrete and analyzable facts. And what I believe is that we have to do both. So for somebody to bring their sacred ambition concretely into a sustainable business, they need to learn how to use their analytical mind in service of their sacred ambition. How to use metrics and plans and goals to be truing mechanisms for what they're really committed to. And so it's really harnessing the power of the mind and using the heart and the sacred dynamics of who we are as human beings to lead that. So that's what I call it's a mindset, it's a set of skills, a set of strategies around thinking like a CEO, and that's why I named my business what I named it. And then a part of that, then, I think there are a couple of things underneath that. One is you've got to ask the source of your business, and I mean the sacred source. You have to keep your own flame alive. You know, you've got to do and put in place the things that will keep you inspired and keep you, because you're, you know, for a lot of us as solopreneurs, we're by ourselves, and it's
Yes.
so easy to lose that enthusiasm. And then you also need to have like plans and concrete things, and and it's really useful to keep those two things really tightly intertwined and in front of you, so that the first thing you look at when you come to work in the morning is your mission and your vision and your, you know, the key heartfelt most core of your business things. And then also the steps that you need to take to bring that into reality. So, you know, yeah.
Well, I just want to say personally, and I'll just a little personal, you know, Laura has rubbed off on me. I've known you, what, about 4 or 5 years now? She's just kind of rubbed off on me over the years. And first time I ever heard Think and Grow CEO, I just went, oh gosh, that's what I need right there, you know, because I can create things all day long, and I can start, you know, this Google Hangout, and I can, you know, do this teleclass, and I can write that, and, you know, but really getting concrete in what Laura teaches just has been my weakest part in my business, and I have grown in that area. I'm gonna pat myself on the back. and
Absolutely.
and I have more to go, and I just want to just make a plug for this analytical side of being in business. It's just so important. Is that what you're going to be talking about? Let's talk about the event that's coming up in August. Is that what you're going to be talking about at the event?
I am. I'm going to talk about the bridge between envisioning something and really getting clear about your sacred ambition and your sacred calling, and then the bridge to making that real in the world and making it sustainable. Yeah. Yeah.
And I want to say that for those that might be listening to this Google Hangout that say, well, I don't really want to start a business. I want to start more of an initiative or a nonprofit, or I want to join this movement, you know, whatever, save the whales, you know, ecological, farm to table, whatever it is. Great. It's the same principles apply. And Laura is really brilliant at being able to not only work with business people, but also people that are in that more initiative stage. And the other area that you and I discovered this last year working together were just people who just want to be the best person in the world. They want to really embody their best self. They want to embody their best spouse self, or their best parent self, or their best citizen self. So also, that's also part of being from sacred calling to sacred ambition, I just want to say. And I talk a lot more about that in the assessment that I put out on the Facebook, and I know a lot of people have taken the assessment, so that's available too. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us? And let me just see if let me just check in with Selena here quickly. Are there any comments or questions, Selena, for Laura?
No questions, but lots of comments about understanding and really relating to Laura's story about getting concrete and the bright, shiny objects being difficult to overcome because of how the pressure that we feel in our culture. Mm-hmm. So, a lovely conversation.
Yeah, and I want to say that, you know, Laura, one of the things that learning your systems and your strategies has done for me is actually take off a lot of the pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you really do see that, oh, okay, I'm taking this step by step, and here are my goals, and I reached that goal, now here's my next goal, and whatever, it's like I'm not in that pressure cooker like, oh my God, you know, success in 6 months or 9 months or 12 months or whatever it is. It's like, no, we're really in this for the long haul. At least I am. And that's another thing about sacred callings to sacred ambition. You know, there is an emergence, there is a blooming period, there is a period to pick the fruit, of our labors. Then there's a time to go back inward, and those kind of analogies. So,
Absolutely.
so what else would you like to wrap this part up for you, for us?
Well, first of all, I just want to say I'm so excited to see people at the event. I hope that all the people that are listening sign up, because you should be there.
Yeah, it's quite an event.
It's a really great event. And the other thing that I want to say is, I am so clear. This is a message for each one of you that is listening. You are precious, and the world needs you. There's a wonderful quote that I won't go in, it's a little bit long, so I'm not going to go into the whole thing. But I just want you to know that I know that there is nobody else in the entire universe like you. And even if somebody else sitting right next to you had all the same education, the same training, the same everything that you had, or you had a twin that actually had the same genetic material that you have, what you bring to the world, your expression, is different than theirs. And there are people that can only hear what there is for them to hear from your mouth. So I just think it is so critical that you open up what Rebecca is bringing to the world through Sacred Ambition, because we need it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Thank you so much, my dear. I will see you in a couple of months.
Bye.
Bye. Isn't she great? I know. It's wonderful. The team that will be presenting at this year event, the speakers are just really top notch. I couldn't be more pleased to be sharing the stage with them, and the whole really breadth and scope of Sacred Calling to Sacred Ambition. So let me do a little bit more teaching about bright, shiny objects, because as Laura said, we are enculturated with so many standards of success. All you have to do is look on the television and see commercials about it, or look in the newspaper and see, advertisements about it. So first of all, let's just take in a nice deep breath and have a lot of compassion for ourselves. We also know that everyone's definition of success is unique to each one of us, to you. And that's probably one of the first teachings that came out of that mastermind year for me was, wow, I need to have my own definition of success. I need to stop taking on the world's definition. So that took some inner work on my part. And, doing a sacred call to sacred ambition, there is an inner piece to this that is so important. You're going to hear me talk about that in various stages, in various ways when I talk about this. But coming up with your own standard of success, what really works for you, is really important. The other thing I want to say is that all experiences are valuable. Even my experiences of running after that bright, shiny object was valuable. I learned that, oh, this is not the way I want to do it. This doesn't work for me. And that's really good information. So one of the things that we can ask ourselves, and maybe you can ask yourself right now, if you are in a business, if you are starting a business, or you've had a business for a while, is you really want to ask yourself, is the way that I bring my business to the world in all the different ways really work for me? Is it feeding me? Is it energizing me? Do I have joy? Am I in touch with that original spark of heartfelt sharing and service? Or has it become something that's just too huge, too overwhelming? I'm not feeling fulfilled, but I'm doing everything they say to do. See, these are some of the questions you really want to look at. And I want to say there is no shame or blame in being able to say, wow, this is not working. Because as soon as we say this is not working, then we can clear the decks and begin to look for what does work. What does work? The other thing I want to say about sacred callings to sacred ambition is that your business, your sacred calling to sacred ambition is not a cookie cutter approach. So stop treating it like that. If you're looking out here in the world and you say, well, the industry does this, or, well, everybody's doing that, back up. Because what you do, you are unique and is not cookie cutter. So be aware that you want to do what really, well, as we say in the South, and I grew up in the South, blows your skirt up. You really want to do something that lights you up. You know, I do Google Hangouts. I've fallen in love with Google Hangouts, so that's why I do them. I did a Facebook group and ran a contest because I was so touched by all of the sharing and support and the beautiful images. I have to do what works for me. And it's really important that everybody find that. So throw out the cookie cutter and have the space and time to really take a look at what works for you, which brings me to the event. Because the event is 3 days dedicated to you and your great work. And in my opinion, it is so needed and necessary, and what a great gift to give yourself. So I want to say that the event is coming up August 6th, 7th, and 8th at the beautiful Tamiya Resort, which is halfway between Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's actually on Indian land. It's surrounded with space, with mesas and mountains and the sky. It's actually a very sacred place to have an event like this, which is one of the reasons I'm there. It's 3 days of clearing out stuff that no longer works for you. Old belief systems, old paradigms, old status quos around ambition and power, around success, so that you can end those 3 days emboldened and empowered in your sacred calling to sacred ambition. You don't need to know your sacred calling to show up. If you just have this little whisper in your heart and you want to articulate it, you want to bring it forward, this is the event for you. Or if you've already articulated it and you're on your way, but something's just not working, you just want to fine tune it, you want to be in a room where you don't have to explain yourself, you can get full support, full witness, and also support others, this is the event for you. This is a room full of sacred ambition visionaries, world servers, and leaders. You know, at the end of last year, because this is the second year I've done it, at the end of last year, I made a prediction. I said, you know, we're going to double in size next year. Not because of me, but because of you. And I pointed to all of the people standing in that big circle around the room because they were so on fire with their truth and with who they were, who they are. And I knew that that energy would ripple out, send its ripples out into the universe. And that this year, that the gathering would be twice as big. So I'm going to have Selena post the URL in the chat just so you know where to go to register. It's RebeccaESkeele.com/Sacred Ambition 2015. There's some hyphens in there, so be sure you take a look at the URL. And actually the event cost is very reasonable. You can come to this event for $297, and you can bring a friend along for $97. So if you take $297 and $97 and you add it up and you divide it by 2, you can see that you pay even less bringing a friend. And then also I have a very reasonable room block at the Tamiya Hyatt. So let's see if there's anything else I want to say in closing here before I make another announcement. Selena, do we have any questions or any sharing?
I'll get back to my screen here in a second. Just lots of people who are on the chat are also planning to come to the event. And so lots of people being excited about meeting each other and learning from each other. And so it's lots of chatting about that.
Good. Wonderful. Yeah, I know. I love it when people start to enroll and the group grows and everybody goes, oh, you're going to be there. You know, one of the wonderful things about meeting each other in chats like this or on the Facebook group is that you don't walk in on Thursday morning into a room full of strangers. You already know these people. Maybe you haven't, you know, given them a hug yet, but you already know them. And that's one of the beauties of meeting each other this way online. So there are just 5 points that I want to make in closing. These are really the 5 teaching points that I have talked about not only in this Google Hangout series, but also in the articles I've been writing along the way. And they are to manifest your sacred ambition and harness your ambition and power to bring your blessing, your sacred call to the world in service to the greater good. Number 1, know who you are. Big, big, big part of sacred calling to sacred ambition. Learn to dance and embrace uncertainty and the unknown. Big part of bringing forward sacred callings to sacred ambitions, because so many of them are not yet on the planet. They're still up there in the visionary, and when we bring them into form, we must have patience and trust to work with that uncertainty and that unknown as it unfolds. Give yourself permission to do, be, and have more of what you truly want. And know what you truly want. Again, another very important teaching. What we want, not what we think we should want, not what others want for us or say we should want. What you truly want. Cultivate a thriving inner dialogue with divine guidance. Sacred callings have everything to do with your following, trusting, opening to, listening to that divine guidance that's actually steering the ship here. So getting aligned with that and having an ongoing dialogue with it is part of this process of sacred ambitions. And then finally, which today was all based in, have best practices, systems, strategies to manifest your vision as a business or an initiative in service to the greater good. Well, this wraps up the 4 teaching Google Hangouts. I hope you've gotten value from our Hangouts. We would love for you to post on our Facebook group. By the way, if you're not a member of it, please come on over and join us, because we're going to continue to be bringing forth all kinds of wonderful things to talk about and explore. It's from Sacred Calling to Sacred Ambition on Facebook. We'd love to have you. I think we're 100 and something strong right now, so certainly room for lots more. And my announcement is, I told you I liked Google Hangouts. We're actually going to do another one. This is going to be a little different topic, but it is going to be next Thursday, and the date is, I'll go ahead and give you the date, it's June 11th. I don't know the time yet, but I will say that who I'm going to have on as my guest is someone who's actually been working her sacred ambition this last year and working with me, and she's going to share what she's learned. She's going to share some challenges. She's going to share just what she's walking away with at the end of really working sacred ambition in the world. So I'm looking forward to it, and it will be, again, another juicy time for us to get together. So that's all that I have, Selena. Do you have anything?
Just a reminder that the Facebook group link is in the chat, as well as the link to register or at least find out more information about the event. And so you can click, those are clickable, so you can go there. Or if you show up any place where Rebecca is, all those links will be there for you to easily find your way.
All roads lead to all roads lead to Rome, kind of thing. Okay.
And I'm super excited about this next hangout. I have some clues, and I can tell you it's going to be really, really fun. And a great guest, and happy to see all of you one more time in the hangout.
So bye from my wonderful co-host Selena and I. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you on Facebook and hopefully in the next Google Chat.
Great. Bye-bye.